Hey gang, it's your GM Drakeen here with another homebrew. Today I'm talking about some third-party content that I'm using for my games. Um, so this source I picked up, this was released back in 2017, and I got quite a bit of use out of it. It was discontinued for cultural reasons. Um, and anytime you're pulling in third-party content for your game, you want to be very careful. Pull in like lowest level kind of things first, like if you're going to use spells like cantrips and maybe first level spells. But I find pulling in higher level stuff from third party is dangerous. And also, you got to be really careful if you pull in like archetypes, subclasses, feats. Knife Juggler was a feat I just did not see anywhere in 5th edition D&D. There was really no I feel like it's a pretty obvious, from reading the feed itself, it seemed pretty obvious there should be something like it in the existing game, and there wasn't, so I decided to include it in mine. Offensive Duelist is another interesting martial feat, which I get into. So this cantrip I felt like was cool because there just weren't decent ranged poison cantrips in the game. I'm also getting ready to run out of the abyss, so I wanted something to utilize for the spider domain, which I'll be probably releasing soon. The spider domain is specifically for clerics and priestesses of the deity Lolth, who's known as the Spider Queen, if you're familiar with Forgotten Realms. Great Spring, which I think is open to rangers and druids. It solved a lot of problems with, okay, so where are you guys getting your water from? Um, and I felt like low-level utility spells like this would get you Ancestral Vengeance. This is a cleric spell. I think it's also open to paladins. Has a lot of range. I felt like a lot of the cleric spells did not have range. Fire Shuriken. I felt like this was a kind of cool spell that could be utilized by Eldritch Knights and the like. And lastly, the subclass Shamanism domain, utilized by tribal type groups, goblins, orcs, or even like barbarians or druids. I felt like the one that was introduced here was pretty good and worth checking out. So let's jump into it. The knife juggler feat, when you throw a weapon or item, you can also draw it as part of the same action, which solves the problem so you can, draw as many as you need. Short and long range of all thrown weapons for you is doubled. That's kind of cool. And the last one here is the real kicker. It says you can use your reaction to throw a light thrown weapon which you are proficient when a hostile creature enters short range of your thrown weapon. So I felt like this was kind of cool. It's similar to Polearm Master, except you throw a knife at them. So I utilized this feat in my game, Offensive Duelist. And it says when you're wielding a two-handed or versatile melee weapon in two hands with which you are proficient, and another creature hits you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to immediately retaliate with an opportunity attack. Additionally, you can ignore any AC a hostile creature gains from wielding a shield. So cool. Opportunity attack. If someone hits you, it's kind of like reverse riposte in a way. I thought that was kind of cool if you're just using like a two-handed weapon or a weapon with two hands. Poison needles, open to druids, sorcerers, and wizards. Um, does poison and piercing damage. It has a 60-foot range, which is longer than I think every poison cantrip in the game. But doing 1d4 plus 1 and 1d4 plus 1 piercing, so poison and piercing damage, and then it scales up from there. Create Spring, 8 hours of water. Kind of cool. It's open to cleric, druid, and ranger. Ancestral Vengeance. Now this is a cleric and a paladin spell. 300-foot range. You call out an ancestral spirit. The ancestral spirit imposes the punishment from in the form of a sharp blow to the target. Target must make a con save. Target takes 4d8 necrotic damage on a failed save and half as much on a successful one. pretty basic, right? And it scales up from there. So one target, taking necrotic damage, fire shuriken, open to sorcerers and wizards, and like I said, I kind of put it in the game for eldritch knights and the like. So you know, it has a short range, which shuriken have a short range, 50 feet, and you can throw six of them, and they only do 1d4 plus 1 fire damage on a hit, which isn't a lot of damage, and it's fire damage, so it's a lot of resistances to that. So not, I don't think this is super OP. So lastly, the shamanism domain. Still tweaking this, but generally there are kind of four aspects to this. A little bit about it here. This is their spell list. Fairy Fire, Goodberry, all these you should be familiar with. Earthbind, Moonbeam, Gaseous Form and Haste, Blight, Summon Elemental, and Anti-Life Shell, and Gift of the Ancients. Now this last spell is actually, it used to, in the book, if you look at it, and this spell here, I changed it because it used to be Blight and Locate Creature. I felt like Locate Creature was kind of like, why? Like it didn't, I don't know, didn't have a lot for me. And I think Summon Elemental actually came out later, in a later version. So I pulled in that. Gift of the Ancients is actually a spell from Deep Magic called Surprise Blessing. So I rebranded it. I do that a lot with my spells. I find Magic the Gathering has excellent branding. So often I'll pull like names from there, just because I feel like Surprise Blessing doesn't really, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. But let's look at this closer. So, Spirit Patron. So, first level, you choose one of these spirits depending on what kind of shaman you are. There's ancestral, animal, demonic, and primordial. So, this would be based on like the tribe. Each one has a different ability. Ancestral just gives you one more cleric spell, so that you know. Animal spirit, you can cast Find Familiar, which is kind of cool. And the spirit will be celestial instead of beast. It'll also be translucent. Demonic spirit is you can cast disguise self at will, and you can learn a warlock cantrip of your choice. So, guess which one you would choose? Probably Eldritch Blast, right? And then the last one is kind of weird. Primordial Spirit. When you are hit by a melee attack, you can use your action to vanish. So that's kind of cool. You can appear 60 feet away. I'm not going to read every detail of all of this to you. Then at second level, you get Spirit Sight, which is basically true sight for 1 minute, which is kind of cool. And then Gift of Patronage. Depending on what choice you made at first level, you get either one of these. Ancestral gets, you can always cast Cure Light, or Cure Wounds and Healing Word spells, whether you have them prepared or not. That's interesting. Animal Spirit, you have advantage on Wisdom Perception checks as long as your familiar is within 5 feet of you. Interesting. Demonic Spirit, you can cast Polymorph once without using a spell slot, and once per long rest. And then Primordial, you just get one additional use of Channel Divinity. This last ability, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce, as an action, you can restore hit points to any number of friendly creatures within 30 feet. The number of total hit points you can restore equals twice your cleric level, and you can divide the healing among your allies as you see fit. Once you use this finish a long rest. Okay, so cool healing ability. And then last, you get resistance to necrotic and radiant damage, which probably won't come up a lot. But anyway, it's pretty basic, and it probably could be tweaked and even made better. But you get the idea. I wanted something for tribes and shamans, so I'm implementing that in my games. So yeah, there were other things too in Heroes, which I'm going to briefly touch on here, which I am not using, but might be worth taking a look at. There's a cantrip called Hail of Stones, which makes rocks fall in a certain area. People make their saving throw; they take no damage. Smoke ladder is good. A utility spell, which you can make a ladder out of smoke, kind of out of a fire source. It's good for like climbing and breaching walls. So, you know, it would be good for climbing like Firefinger, for example, or if you have like a siege campaign, it would be definitely utilized there if you want your players to be able to climb. Know the Shadows is basically Pass Without Trace for bards and warlocks. It's similar, not as effective, but pretty good. Elemental Weapon Manifestation, very long explanation for that. Summons weapons. It does not have concentration. Each of the weapons does a different type of usually elemental damage or force damage for that matter. Ice Blast just does just what it sounds like. It deals piercing and cold damage. I was thinking of bringing that in for Frost Maiden. Circle the Fate Touch is just what it sounds like. It's a druid archetype, and Witch Hunter is a fighter archetype for fighters that have abilities against undead fiends, that sort of thing. Still looking for two for Tomb. Still looking for some more players for Frost Maiden, and hopefully Out of the Abyss will be out this month. Hope to see you at the gaming table. Please like and subscribe. Take care.